how can you speed up your disability case? All right. Social Security has a variety of different criteria that they rely on to determine whether or not your case should be made what we call critical, which means that they then have to, with the cases that is designated critical, they can use that information for purposes of making the determination that they can move the case through the process a lot faster. It could be compassionate allowance, wounded warrior, terminally ill. But the most common thing that I get from people is dire need. Let me explain to you exactly what a dire need situation. A dire need situation exists when a claimant alleges any of the following. The claimant is without food and is unable to obtain it. The claimant lacks medicine or medical care and is unable to obtain it, or the claimant indicates that access to a necessary medical resource is restricted. The claimant lacks shelter without utilities such that his or her home is uninhabitable, homelessness, expiration of a shelter or imminent eviction or foreclosure with no means to remedy the situation or obtain shelter. Here's a couple of things that I'd like to tell people about dire need. First of all, it's your dire need, not dire need of others, but your dire need situation first. Second of all, you better have documentation to support it. That's typically what they're going to rely upon. That's the second thing. 3, keep in mind, I always tell people, asking for your case to be designated dire need on what I like to call a preemptive strike is never going to be a good thing for you. And you would say, what do you mean by a preemptive strike, Attorney Reeves? Sometimes what people will do is if they know that they're in the process of possibly being evicted in the future, they want to do it now. Or they're looking at the possibility of being foreclosed on, they want to do it now. And I tell people, let's pause on this for a second. If you're in the event of being foreclosure is the final act of taking your property from you. If you're going through the foreclosure proceedings, that could take months. What Social Security is looking at is a situation where your situation is where you're getting ready to be put out in the streets like immediately, or if you're homeless, or that's why they use words imminent eviction, which sometimes usually means within a couple of days or months or so, whatever the case may be. In those situations, Social Security recognizes that your situation is so crucial that they need to move you to the front of the line. A couple other things that you need to be aware of. First of all, remember, everybody who applies for disability, a lot of people are in the same situation. They're not working, they don't have any insurance, they have no money coming into the house, so they're all in really tough situations. What you're trying to do is you're trying to demonstrate that your situation is so dire need that you need to be moved to the front of the line of somebody who's been in the system a lot longer than you have. Now, ahead of somebody who's been in the system a lot longer than you have. Sorry about that. The other thing you need to be aware of is that having your case expedited is a relative phrase, meaning I don't want you to think that because they designated critical, meaning you're going to get a hearing tomorrow. That's not the way it works. What it means is that the time period that it will normally take for you to get a hearing won't be as long as it normally would if you were going through the hearing process. That could mean instead of waiting a year and a half, you may only have to wait 4 or 5 months. Or instead of waiting a year, you can only wait a couple months. It's all relative on the demands of the office itself. But just keep that in the back of your mind. Remember, when you are alleging that your case is critical, particularly based on dire need, you need to have documentation to demonstrate that your situation is such that you can be moved ahead of someone who has been in the system longer. Keep that in the back of your mind. Is that you got so many people who are applying and they're all alleging the same types of things, but you have a duty to demonstrate that your circumstances are different. And the other thing you need to be aware of is just because you say it's dire need, the government doesn't necessarily have to agree. So even if you provide this documentation, there's a possibility that they make a determination that your condition is not so dire that you need to be moved ahead of someone else.
Tune in tomorrow as we talk about the difference between SSI and SSD.